Man, oh man, did I not think I was going to be making this video, but boy, oh boy, does this story have legs. So, I'm sure as you're all aware, Dave Smith and Douglas Murray went on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast last week and had a debate, or at least tried to, when Murray wasn't arguing literally anything but the point. And the conclusion by most rational people was that Douglas Murray exposed himself to be a pompous ass who neither respected the host nor the guest and didn't really seem to have any consistent principles other than war good and trust the experts. But since the era of experts is all but over and your reputation is built on the strength of the argument, not the institution you represent, that was the end of it. Or at least it should have been. Because man alive, Dave Smith was getting absolutely carpet bombed by the pro-Israel right. Now I know that's their style, but I thought this was mostly just post-debate scuttlebutt and would exhaust itself in a few days. But that is not what happened. As recent as today, this debate is still raging on Twitter with many high-profile right-wing accounts coming down hard on Dave. Now I know the old saying is Twitter isn't real life, but I don't really agree with that because very oftentimes what's going on Twitter is very upstream from what the country will be talking about and doing in the coming months. I think it has a real impact. But this video is not about whether you agree with Dave or not. This video is about the fact that the conversation seems to have dramatically shifted to podcaster accountability. Podcaster accountability. I thought the entire point of podcasting was to not be accountable. I thought the whole point was to be a contrast, an alternative to mainstream media where you could say wild shit and explore new, unsanctioned concepts. And they're not supposed to be accountable, by the way. That's the job of the news, of government, of educational institutions. But those are so compromised and full of utter lies that podcasting exploded as a result. Not to mention, there's already a system to filter them. It's called clicks. If you get enough stuff wrong and have consistently bad takes, your clicks and impact will go down. It's the pure democratization of content. But apparently, the pro-Israel right does not see it this way. So I saw this post earlier today by Dave Rubin, and thanks, Dave, you're the reason this video exists, though I don't think you're going to like what I have to say. He was responding to this quote from Konstantin Kisin of the Triggernometry Podcast, who said, "Podcastistan is a place where people scold the media for failing to live up to their standards while having none of their own." Now, I don't know the context of this quote, so it could just simply be a joke, or perhaps if it was couched in the right conversation would make a lot more sense. But a few things here. Hey, Future Matt here. Turns out this Konstantin quote comes from an article he recently wrote. I read it, and I'll save you the time. It's a long, bloviated, pseudo-intellectual slog of an article, essentially just reasserting everything Murray said in that podcast. It's linked down below if you want to read it, but I don't recommend it. The biggest being that the right had no problem with Podcastistan when it was getting Trump elected during this past season. Didn't see any issues about calling experts then. And secondly, I don't think this is true. I personally have standards. I try to be as forthright as possible, as accurate to the facts and the truth as I see or from the information that I've gathered, and I try to admit when I'm wrong. But that's just me, and I don't have a particularly wide influence. However, the people who do have a particularly wide influence, like Joe Rogan or Dave Smith, to me have always exhibited that they do have quite high standards. Joe Rogan's been described as a bullshit detector who doesn't let anyone slip things by him that he can identify as nonsense, and he often pushes back on his guests, usually on topics he knows about, but if he doesn't know about it, he's taking the guest's word for it, like anyone else would. And by the way, being the most high-profile and popular podcast in the world, if something gets wrong on that podcast, it will be called out, as evidenced by this entire conversation. Dave Smith 100% has standards. He's definitely never done any of those things that Douglas Murray was accusing him of with the "I'm just a comedian, bro." Never, not one time have I ever heard him say that. He is well-researched, knowledgeable, and always tries to tell the truth as he sees it, with the information he's gathered. So this concept that these podcasters don't have standards is complete bullshit. And thirdly, this argument from Konstantin is exactly the same argument that Douglas was making. It's a dismissive broad stroke that casts doubt on the entire medium instead of dealing with issues or things they may have gotten wrong on a case-by-case basis, including throwing doubt on both Konstantin and Dave Rubin because they are both podcasters. Unless somehow they're both exempt from this characterization, you know what they do have in common? They're both pro-Israel. Ah, the picture starts to come into focus, doesn't it? But Let's hear from Dave Rubin. Excellent line by Konstantin Kisin here. I'll add that part of the problem, ironic that he chose that phrase as that's the name of Dave Smith's podcast, is that the same liberals who have been at the center of these conversations for years think you can rationalize logic and reason your way out of this problem. Now, I'm not entirely sure what he's talking about, what liberals has to do with his greater tweet, but whatever. He continues, unfortunately, that's not how the internet works. The grifters realize this, so offer bite-sized brain rot candy to their audiences who are then too full of BS to feast on anything actually true. Not sure what the solution to this is, but the internet, and maybe the human mind, is designed in a way that always lends itself to the fringe of the fringe. Maybe I'll do a podcast one on this, laughing emoji. Ah, the old grifter term. I remember this one. This originally was a shot from the left at those who would criticize woke video games or movies, conservatives, or really any content creator who didn't parrot left-wing talking points. And the right is doing it now. Funny how things come full circle. And in my opinion, given the state of things, the picture attached to this tweet, and the fact that he has directly opposing views on the Israel-Gaza war, I believe this tweet is directed at Dave Smith, implying that Dave is a grifter who misleads his audience with fringe and sensationalist takes to get clicks, attention, and money. Hey, Dave Rubin. Now, I know there's no hard evidence to this, so this is not an accusation, purely hypothetical. However, if it were to be revealed that you received social favors, financial compensation, or career advancement to go out there and promote a growingly unpopular war, that's a grift, buddy. That's, in fact, the grift. And when the did MAGA become so pro-foreign war? I thought we collectively realized how pointless, destructive, and taxing our involvement in these foreign wars is. I thought that was like one of the core tenets of America First. Where did that go? And you know this Douglas Murray guy you guys are all lionizing right now? He was pro the Iraq war, pro the Afghan conflict, and he's also pro the Ukraine war. I didn't notice anyone on the right saying what great points Murray made about Ukraine and how now suddenly we're going to go support that war. Well, it's the same guy. It's essentially the same arguments. And guess what? He's also been to Ukraine, so he knows all about it. Funny how the only thing he got right and schooled Dave Smith on was Israel. So he's been wrong on every major conflict in the modern era, but no, on this one he's actually right. It has become a huge divide on the right, with many prominent accounts twisting the entire conversation to glorify Murray and discredit Dave Smith. Luckily, most of the sane and observant people who are sick of being told what to think and by who are seeing right through this bullshit. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Watch the MFer Podcast every Monday night at 8 p.m. live here on YouTube. You're an absolute legend for making it all the way to the end. Peace out. As recent as today, this debate is still raging on Twitter with many high-profile right-wing chameleon